So before you joined the program, I know that your partner had kind of talked to you about separation. And if I remember from your story, that actually came as like a massive shock to you. It wasn't necessarily something that you were expecting. Can you tell us
Yeah,
a little bit about what was like leading up to that separation and how the relationship was before she even made the announcement that she wanted to separate?
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, so before she, I guess, dropped the bomb on me that that she had no love for me, she wanted to leave, and all that. I mean, we've had problems before, for the few years before that, and we were working on a few things, like for example, like reading the five love languages. And I think what was interesting is that in the whole, I want to say the whole like last year before she dropped the bomb on me, we didn't have any arguments. So I really thought everything was great. Everything's going, going well now, right? It's like, oh, we're reading love languages. Okay, great. Like doing what she wants, right? And so when she did finally tell me she has no love for me, she wants to separate, she wants to, get out of the house and all that, it really was a huge surprise for me. It was totally unexpected. And I mean, looking back on it now, I guess, like, cause, like you said earlier, I'm in Shanghai, I'm in China. Like in Asian culture, like separation, like divorce, it's still kind of taboo. I mean, it's not as as open as like Western society, right? So I think for her
Yeah.
to say that, it would be it was such a big surprise for me. Like I wasn't sure, like I was shocked. Right? What am I gonna tell my parents? Am I gonna tell my friends? Like this is you can't do this to me. Like this is such a big shame. Like in my life.
Right. And I think it's funny that you say that, right? Because again, I kind of went through the same thing. I don't know if you've seen my story and the interviews that Geoffrey's done with me, but I was kind of in the same mode as you, where one night I thought everything was going fine, right? We had stopped fighting. She hadn't been bringing up issues or telling me the things that I had done wrong. Everything had kind of gone radio silent. And I was like, yeah, we're finally hitting our groove. Everything's going fine. Right. And then one night at like 11:30 at night, I go into the room and start bragging about how I won an argument with somebody on the internet. And she's like, I just can't do it anymore. I want a divorce. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Right. She gave us that famous line and completely like shattered and rocked my world. It came out of nowhere. I had no idea it was coming. And I think because people think that when you're fighting and getting in arguments, that's the bad part. I think sometimes the bad part, or the harder cases to get out of, and I don't know if Geoffrey agrees with this, are the ones where your partner sort of gives up hope and goes indifferent and sits there for a year or 2 years, just doesn't even have the will to fight with you anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that, because one of the questions that we get a lot is when people ask, well, what do I do if my wife is stonewalling me? What do I do if my wife doesn't want to talk? What do I do if my wife doesn't want to share what she actually feels like? And people ask that question thinking that that question is a unique question. But it's not a unique question if you understand that that is the very nature of what it means to destroy safety, right? When you destroy safety, one of the biggest ways that the lack of safety manifests is by the lack of communication. And even I face the same thing. And I'm sure Bax and Jason, you also face the exact same thing where, there was a point in my relationship where my partner stopped criticizing me, stopped giving me feedback, stopped telling me what was wrong, stopped telling me the harsh truths, the stuff she's penting up. Not because she didn't have those, not because I was doing well, but because I was doing so badly on the safety that she didn't even want to express that stuff, right? So the problem with this is it creates this dichotomy or this distance between who you think you are. So you look at the lack of arguments and the lack of feedback and you say, oh, that must be because things are improving, things are getting better. But actually, that's actually a sign that things are really, really bad, right? But a lot of people don't know until the bomb drops that it's really bad because of that lack of safety, right? Until someone says like, okay, this is enough kind of thing. Bax, Jason, was that your journeys too?
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like scripted, like you say. Going into it, it's like you go through these stages where your partner is very hostile. She's very contentious. She's, telling this needs to change, and everything seems like it's like a very active type of front. But then, while you're trying to work on things and you're doing things, and what we learned is we're doing a lot of the wrong things, but then our partner starts to stop that. And we think, wow, yes, this is working, right? It's actually, it's having some impact to it. But what's secretly happening is now, like, as Geoffrey mentioned, the root in this sign is a lack of safety. So now my partner is now self-preserving, and she's shut down, she's agreeable, and she's just going with the flow. And then you get hit with this news and you're like, what the fuck just happened, right? And again, what Geoffrey says, everyone comes to us. I've been on the phone with thousands of people, and it's always the same journey. It's the same journey every time. And it just kind of surprises us. And I know it was kind of similar when I first enrolled you too, Bax.
And before you answer that, Bax, right, I would just want to tie into everybody. So a lot of what we're talking about kind of falls into one of the victim mindsets that we teach in the program, which is called perfect product. So a lot of us think that as husbands, our job is to kind of meet that need of physical safety, where we provide money, we provide shelter, and we think that that's enough. And we think, hey, I'm the breadwinner. I make the majority of the money for the house. You kind of take care of the kids, you do the cooking, but I take you out on dates, or I'll take you and pay for vacations, or I pay the mortgage, and that should be enough. And unfortunately, I think we all learned kind of quickly once we've joined the program that is not the case. What about you, Bax? How do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just essentially going to repeat what the other guys have said, because it's such a predictable narrative, right? And it's so obvious once you get to the other side of the road, if you like, right? And you kind of see it, like they say, like hindsight's 2020. What I wanted to ask actually, David, is kind of what were you doing? Like, how was this perfect product like manifesting in the relationship? Like, how were you treating her? How were you kind of like tearing down that safety and sort of eroding the relationship? Like, describe like what an average day looked like for you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, before joining the program, maybe before all this stuff, like I would always think, I'm perfect. And it's really kind of ridiculous to think about it now, but like any problems in a relationship, I would think it's her fault, it's wife's fault. I'm gonna fix her. Like, it's not to fix the relationship, it's to fix my wife. It's ridiculous. But like, yeah, I mean, everything was kind of like a competition, just to show how much better I am than her. If she would, recommend a movie and we'd watch it, and like maybe it wouldn't be as good as we thought it would be. Now I'll make fun of her for it. But how could you choose such a crappy movie? For her job, I'd be like, like your job is ridiculous. It sucks. You just quit your job. Like, my job's much better. Like a lot of these things, it just became a competition. It wasn't even like we were a couple working together like as a team. It's just like you versus me. Like, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. You think about it now.
I will throw my hands up in the air and say I had a lot of that, right? Because obviously, we make quite a bit here. So I'm the sole breadwinner right now of the family, right? And whenever, for example, like we would go on vacation and she would be planning the vacation and then the plans in the vacation don't go according to plan, I would, in my head, think like, you had one job. Come on, get your job, get your shit together, or if let's say she wants to start her own business and she has all these ideas, right? I would always try to coach her into it, thinking like, oh, I'm the one who knows everything. You don't know anything. So you need to take advice from me, kind of thing. Or even when she talks about her day and she talks about how difficult her day was and how tired she was, right? I would always think in my head, there's no way it can be more tiring than mine. So for example, I'm tired too. I would finish work, I would be tired too. And I want someone to pamper me. But then she's also tired, so she can't pamper me. I would get offended. I'd be like, how can you? Because your day cannot be harder than my day. So I would always do these things to like belittle her experiences. And it's not that I am trying to belittle it. I'm trying to maliciously destroy her life. I was so self-centered. Everything revolved around me. I thought I was so perfect, this perfect king that everyone need to bow down to, that it just came out like that. It's just a paradigm thing. You can't help it.
Yeah. And I mean, it got to the point with my wife where she felt like she wasn't like, and I think you said the same thing, David, where she wasn't a partner in the relationship, right? She wasn't my wife. She was kind of just an object around the house who I'd ask to cook every once in a while. I'd ask to clean every once in a while, and I'd ask to have sex with every once in a while. But she wasn't there for like emotional fulfillment. We weren't there to have deep conversations. I wasn't there to support her. She was just kind of like almost an ornament on my life, saying, hey, I have a wife, I have a kid, my life is normal. But I didn't treat her with that kind of respect and care that you would somebody who you're in an actual partnership, in an actual relationship with. And I think, I don't know if Jason agrees, but both of us coming from the car business, I think that's a very much kind of an attitude that's pervasive in our culture and how kind of dealerships talk and kind of push us forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I want to go back just for a moment. David, I think it's something you said earlier, right? When we have this perfect product kind of persona, right? This wrong understanding, what we realize now of what it means to be high value. What is this secret message, or what is this subtle message we are like telling our partner, right? In that moment, I think you said it earlier, but do you recall, like, I think you mentioned something that you were in essence telling your wife that I'm never going to change. I'm great as it is, right? You should just kind of like lay down to this. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that persona kind of probably just, in the moment gives her the ick or makes her feel like hopeless in that, right? When we have this, like, we're perfect kind of mentality.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, because, we've been having problems for a long time, and, we had tried to come up with methods and, how to resolve this issue, right? And like I was saying, it would always be her fault, right? And like, I would say, oh, it's okay. You can bring it up. Sometimes finally she was kind of afraid to tell me things, right? But I'll be like, it's okay. Tell me, tell me. I can handle it. Right? It's okay. But then she would tell me, and I'll get mad and turn it on her. Be like, oh, but you did this or you did that, or it's still in the end her fault.
Guys, let's be honest. There's a lot of bad relationship advice out there. Advice that often sounds really great on the surface, but when a lot of my clients run to these programs and they follow these great sounding techniques, it actually makes things worse for them. And that is why I do what I do. And for the last 10 years, I've made it my mission to cut through the mountains of bullshit that is out there and show you how the real pros do it. And the first step, our free masterclass. This is where I'll show you the actual process that I've shown thousands of my clients to take them from very dire situations to where they are today, when mainstream advice and a lot of other coaches often have left them for dead. So if you're ready to stop screwing around in the kiddie pool and bullshit advice, click the link, watch the masterclass. At the end of the masterclass, if you want to apply for the program, I'll give you the instructions to do so.
That's a fantastic transition point where, like, I want to talk a little bit about how, obviously we've discussed and you tried things like love languages, and, you've talked to your wife about potentially doing therapy, and you basically tried to put a lot of the blame on her, and you were kind of blind to your own contributions to the problems. When did you finally have like that aha moment where you realized the issues weren't just Vivian's, but yours? Like, what did you discover about yourself when you found that out?
Okay, well, the aha moment would be after I joined the program already. In the program, maybe I would say like 1 or 2 months in. I mean, because in the beginning, like it's okay to talk about the stuff in the program. Like we had the V2H,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
okay, we had the V2H.
absolutely.
To me, I think that was a good first start, like a good first taste of realizing my own problems. But I think it was later on when we started doing the reinterpretations, the timers, 3-hour timers. Like that really, I think, really woke me up. And then even in that group, right, in the community, looking at other people's posts about their reinterpretations, like their MO, like that was really eye-opening for me. So I guess the really aha moment, like, came when I started doing the reinterpretations and reading other people's reinterpretations, trying to collect even more, from my own like benefit, I guess. And
I want to hear kind of from Bax on this one too, because you kind of triggered something that reminds me of what people say, which is, for example, this is a comment that said, "Oh, Jeff, you are not an unbiased party because you always make it the man's fault. You never make it the woman's fault." And people can look at this conversation right now and think, you are still making it the man's fault, all the man's fault. Did you hold that paradigm in your mind? And do you think if you did hold that paradigm of like, oh, it's never the man's fault, or like it shouldn't always be the man's fault, it's always also, it takes two to tango, right? Mm-hmm. It takes two to break a relationship. Mm-hmm. How did that manifest in your life and in your resistance maybe to the program at first?
Well, yeah, so I did have that paradigm. And also another paradigm of like, it's always women that leave, these kinds of sort of ideas and mentalities, right? And as I discussed with you in my interview, that was kind of dangerous for me because it made things like, like the manosphere and like red pill and that sort of thing kind of seem subtly attractive because they were kind of telling me and like, what I wanted to hear and, kind of making me feel better about myself. But to be honest, I think when I came into the program, like I'd taken enough slaps, right? But I was done with slaps, right? I remember it's one of the first things that Jason said to me about being thick-headed. And like thick-headed people, they just love getting slapped, And I was that sort of person, right? So I just going through my life with these very faulty paradigms, and then again, same for me, right? Like when you're forced to confront the way you think, right, and really like look at your behavior. I mean, it's kind of shattering at first, It's like it's a real ego death moment. I know. I saw it in your questionnaire that you submitted, David, that you talked about the Dunbar call that you watched.
Yeah.
And I watched the exact same one. And that was a moment for me where I had a serious ego death, right? Because I kind of watched this guy. It was like a 45-minute chat with Geoffrey. And I watched this guy come in so hypothetical, so certain, right? Of, I think he kind of had religious convictions and things like that, right? And he was so certain. And Geoffrey kind of just walked him down the path, right? And kind of they looked for every door together, and by the end, like you just saw like this change in him. And honestly, like that video, it brought me to tears because I saw a lot of myself in him. I'm not religious, right? But like just in this like certainty, like I am not wrong. Even as I'm in the program, I'm like, I'm doing this, but like because I want an outcome, like subtly probably, yeah, I want to fix hair, I want to change hair, whatever, right? But I am not wrong. And then realizing in that moment that like, oh no, dude, like I'm kind of a piece of shit. Like, no wonder she left me. How could I have put her through that for all those years? And that was a very shattering ego death moment, And but again, like some people in that moment, right? They let the victim mind, the mind viruses kind of take hold again, right? And burrow deeper. It's important at those moments, and obviously this is what you did, David, is you realize that like, no, like I need to change. Like this is real now. Like I actually need to do something. And that's really where the growth starts, right? When you have that, like you're shattered apart and you go, right, let's rebuild. And that's where it gets exciting.
I think that presents an interesting idea of like this fork that people go into, right? When they hear me say about, hey, this is not about finding faults. This is about taking responsibility here, right? This is about owning 100% of your 50%. Doesn't matter what the other person does. It's like this story with my parents, right? Is like, my mom is angry at my dad, or my mom is angry at my dad, or my mom doesn't listen to my dad because my dad has anger issues. My dad has anger issues because my mom doesn't listen, right? So it's like, who starts that? Whose fault is that? They're both kind of like feeding the wheel here. So with feedback loops, it's never a fault. So when we say to people, hey, look at your contribution, I think that puts people into a fork, right? Either they say, let me lean into the idea fully and let me try to look at my faults here, my contribution, or they totally resist it and they go, oh, fuck that. It's not just the man's fault, whatever it is. David, for you, did you hear some of the same advice that we're talking about here, which is like, it's not always the man's fault. It's also the woman's fault. And did that create any resistance to my message or the direction that we're trying to get you into in the beginning? Or did you not even have that problem at all?
I don't really think so, because you talked about the emotional flywheel, like positive feedback loops. And so it's kind of like, well, I can work on myself and that will create a positive loop with her. And so then she'll also end up changing herself. So it's it's not like I can say, oh, it's her fault. She needs to change. She needs to improve. But it's like, well, I can improve myself. And you know what? She'll improve, too, because of me, because of the environment I create. So, I really like that message. And so I really focus a lot on fixing myself, I guess, through the reinterpretations, the ASs. And it's like you say in the program, like later on, the TTH frameworks and all that, it really doesn't work unless you really have made these internal shifts. So anyone who's joined the program, who's new, who are in the program already, like the internal shifts really are key. Without these internal shifts, nothing else, will work.
Right.
Yeah.
And to add in there a little bit, and you mentioned about the V2H. And for those of you who are not in the program, the V2H is the victim to hero worksheet. And we position this in the very beginning. So if we go back to like my journey, David's journey, James's journey, we all come in there with this mindset like we're good, right? And then we have this news. And we're still not really understanding a lot of the faults that we have that are coming off in, like Geoffrey mentions, these fraudulent ways or these subtle ways. And the design of this is to unearth a lot of that. And I'm here on the front lines with, everyone that comes in, and everyone's mind is, what do I do? What do I do? How do I fix things? And in the way I see it is almost like a fitness coach, right? Like, it's not about learning like complex macronutrient timing. It's about how to, like, the best and most effective thing is how to avoid like the junk food, right? Like how to everyone wants to know, what do I do to feed the positive? But one of the first things we know in this journey, this is so critical, is how to stop feeding the negative, right? And the design of that worksheet is to unearth a lot of the things, a lot of the misconceptions that we had that we thought were good, that are actually undermining everything we do. And it creates, as this turning point in our head. And I think that's what David was articulating. This turning point in our head is like, wow, here's how much we contribute to this culture, this environment. Here's how much we feed into it. And if I stop feeding into this culture environment and I feed in the right ways, what kind of behavior, what kind of action I get from this other party? And so it's so critical, right, to really introspective look within and see all the things that we've been programmed in our mind. Like, on calls with people, I'll use, like, I know it's not everywhere, but like Wheaties, right? If my mindset is like Wheaties is the breakfast of champions, and I don't understand the ingredients that go into Wheaties, and it's subtly undermining my nutrition, then I just going through life just eating Wheaties, right? And saying, I'm doing everything right? But consciously sabotaging myself, right? And that's kind of the dynamics I see it.
To keep on the train of the diet and health train of thought, if people ask me, right, what is the secret to, like, what is one thing I can do to be healthier today? I would say the secret is not in what you do. The secret is in what you don't, right? So if you want to improve your health right now, the first thing you need to do is to cut out all the shit that you ate. It's to remove all that stuff. It's not taking more of the greens. It's taking less of the toxic stuff. That's actually the more harmful part. I think it's the same thing to what you're saying, David and Jason, right, is sometimes when people go into this reconciliation space, what they think about is, tell me what I need to do, tell me what I need to say that is additive. But they don't realize that all the stuff that they are doing, that they're saying, that are positive, none of it matters if you're doing all these things that are subconsciously negative. You don't even know are negative, but you're doing it in a negative way, right? All these slips. And so imagine this to the diet example. So let's say in a diet example, right? It's not just when you eat the bad food that you become unhealthy. But here, even if you think about the bad food, even if you get tempted by the bad food, even when you're having that internal turmoil about the bad food, in the relationship sense, that will show in your micro expressions, that will show in your microtones, and that is the slip in itself. So in essence, the standard for the paradigm shift here is even higher, right? Because here what we're saying is, hey, it doesn't matter. So for diet sense, right? Even if you had a 5-hour battle in your head where you decide like, should I eat this bowl of ramen or no? Right? Instant noodles or no? And you have this battle and you eventually did not eat that bowl of ramen. You won. It's good. But in the relationship sense, if let's say you're saying, should I do this bad thing or not? And you're having this 5-hour war with yourself. And you end up, let's say, saying, I don't do that bad thing. The fact that you went into a 5-hour war, your partner saw you in that 5-hour war. And that your partner seeing you in that 5-hour war will affect her perceptions of you. So this is the importance of like changing your paradigms and why David is looking at this and saying the internal shifts are so crucial, because it's those tiny moments that are unseen that you don't even know what you're projecting out. Those are the moments that really count. Right?
Yeah. And I think David, I think we know where the answer to this question is going to be, but, obviously the program teaches a lot of powerful principles, but, can you talk about like that one specific principle that you think helped you the most? It sounds like it potentially is the reinterpretation process, which is kind of what we go from the victim, the hero worksheet too. But why do you think the reinterpretation process was so key for you?
Well, I mean, it kind of opens up your mind to everything you were blind to previously, like all the toxic things we were doing, like we talked about before, like the product illusion, like all the different subtle ways we're treating our partner like a second-class citizen, like how they need to serve you and all that. It opens up your mind, and like, think about it now, you're so blind to it in the past, but once you start going through reinterpretations, learning about the 14 mind viruses, it really is eye-opening. And like,
yeah, and I mean, I agree. Bax, was there a specific mind virus that you think really played a role in kind of destroying your relationship? Which one do you think kind of everybody sort of in the program, when you join, you'll see posts, and we have a very active community. And as people work through the program, you'll hear a lot of people necessarily sometimes pushing back or asking a lot of questions or struggling. And that's normal, right? We expect people to come in because nobody joins the program in an ideal marriage, right? We all kind of joined because we sucked at our marriages and we sucked at emotional conversations and we just were shitty partners, right? Nobody joins and is like, my partner loves me, I'm the greatest person on earth. So when people join, usually there's this moment. And as coaches, it's very easy to see. It's when a reinterpretation lands and clicks with a person, and you can see like kind of their eyes open up and the weight finally like lift off, like, okay, I understand now. So Bax, what was that for you?
Yeah, good question. I think, so for me, it was like a little cocktail. So I obviously I had a lot of PPI, but I kept it under check though, to be fair, I'll be honest. But the good enough illusion was a big one. But I remember the first auto suggestion that I made that really clicked for me was hope illusion auto suggestion, right? And I'll be honest, I think I've told you this anyway, Geoffrey, but like, and I think a lot of people feel this way at first, right? Like when you introduce the reinterpretation process, and I'm just like, like, come on. Like, come on, dude. Like, what is this? You'll have me standing in the mirror next, telling myself how great I am or whatever. And I was just like, no, but like, all right, it's part of my assignment, so I guess I'll just do it, And I was just kind of going through the emotions, right? Like, like I was saying to the clients on a group call the other week, like, you know, I didn't really understand what I was doing, and I was just like looking at other people's and going, just like change the words around a little bit and putting processes in there that like didn't make sense or whatever. And then I really just put some time and effort into this Hope Illusion one, recorded it, right, listened to it back, you know, did the visualization process, listened to it back, and I was like, you know what, like this Geoffrey might be on something, you know. and then like, and it really kind of clicked, and it was like, but it's like many things in this, in what we teach, right, in this journey. It's like, it's only when you're on the other side of the wall do you then look back and go, oh, now I get it, right? You have to go through the process, muddle, find it uncomfortable, not like it, and then suddenly you notice you're like, I'm actually thinking differently. Like, you know, like for perfect products, right? Like, I don't feel the need to sort of like prove how good I am or like argue with people over stuff. I'm just kind of okay with like them thinking what they want to think. And it's like, dude, and then it becomes, that's the intrinsic love piece, right? Like, can you speak to that, Dave? Finding that
I think
love.
there's two things interesting about what you said there, Bax. Number one, James first, right? Number one is like that sense of relief when you feel that ego death. It's kind of a paradoxical, ironic feeling. It's a weird feeling to have where you're saying, I feel better when I admit my mistakes. I admit my contribution. Yes, because here's the thing. You know, sometimes like people ask me, Jeff, why is it always the man's fault? Why can't the woman change too? Okay, so let's say, you join the program and I tell you, hey, Bax, David, you are perfect. The person that needs to change now is your partner. Right. You don't need to change anything. What am I saying to you? I'm saying to you, you are in no control over your relationship gets better or not. So it puts you in this position where you're just left to sit in the chair and go like, I can only wait and wish my partner to be better. And I'm just going to sit here and wait and brood and judge. It's kind of like a mix of a good feeling in the sense that like, I don't need to do anything. I get to feel this sense of superiority, but it also gives you this lack of control, this feeling of helplessness, right? Well, if you have the ego death and I say to you basically, hey, you, with what you do, when you can change the environment, and when you change the environment, you can change your partner, right? But to do that, you need to accept that these are your faults. These are your contributions to the problem. Yes, it has that sense of like, it hurts. But it also comes along with it the sense of, I'm in control. I'm in control of my fate now. I have the grab of the steering wheel. So it's a weird dynamic there. David, did you feel that? I guess others, did you feel that? Because I felt that really strongly of like the ego death actually felt good, satisfying.
Yeah. Like I would say in the beginning of the program, like between first starting doing reinterpretations and all that, I mean, your goal is still kind of like, the mindset at that time is still kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this and it's going to fix the relationship. It's going to fix my partner or whatever, right? It's going to get better. But as you do it more and more, it really becomes more for yourself. You feel happier, you know, like just doing these, getting rid of all the mind viruses. And just even not the relationship, but like just your own life. Like you just go through life so much like lighter, happier. It's, I mean, because you got coaches, you maybe can explain it better, but like it's just I don't know, you feel so much. Maybe not because you're not so toxic anymore. Not so much like trying to compete with everyone anymore, but like you just feel happier and it's easier going through life every day.
You know what it is? Because it's like that whole, sorry, Jason, just really quick. It's like you've been wearing like this suit of armor or something, right, your whole life, right? And like, but you think like, oh, I need this, right? So it's like all your victim mindset, your perfect product, you're good enough for whatever it is, right? And it's like this suit of armor, right? And you get so accustomed to the weight of it, like you start to not realize that it's actually weighing you down, right? And there comes a point in life, and for most of us, that point is when our partners say, all right, I'm done with your ass, right? That we kind of realize that like this armor is not actually serving me. It's not protecting me from anything, right? And so, but like there's still a fear of taking it off, right? Because it's like, well, it obviously protected me at some point, right? So there's a fear of taking it off, and that. But then it's like, you know, like an astronaut taking his helmet off on a planet. He doesn't have his oxygen, right? And you just like kind of, I'm going to take it off. And it's like, oh, cool. And then you get to take it all off. And like you say, then you kind of go, why was I wearing that shit for so long? That was so stupid for me to
It's
walk
like-
around with armor
Yeah,
on.
it's like the guys in the bunker, with the suit on, and they like test the air. They take off the helmet, take a few sniffs.
Yeah.
It's the air is safe. Like,
Safe, yeah. It was safe the whole time. That's the silly thing. And once you kind of feel that, it's like, dude, like I just want to enjoy the air now. I want to enjoy the oxygen. But yeah, sorry, Jason, I really jumped in there.
I just want to throw one thing in here, and then I'll throw it back to James. But something that both David said and Geoffrey said is like there was the joy you have from like doing the work, right? It starts to take hold, and it reminds me of what Geoffrey was talking about. Is like when people naturally want to blame others, and it goes back to a comment that Geoffrey had, like 4 months ago, maybe on YouTube, and it's what the kids would call like a banger, right? And this guy's in there, and he's like, well, when are you going to talk about that? And then Geoffrey is like, well, like we have women that join the program, we have wives that are in the program. Like, I'm not sure what you're talking about. And the guy's just, he said, well, you always talk about what we need to change, Geoffrey, and what about the other person? Geoffrey's like, well, I think you got me screwed up, right? I train and I work with leaders. And the interesting thing about leaders is leaders never bitch and moan and complain about doing the work. And the reason for that is they're too busy enjoying the life that comes with being a leader. And he goes on to say, he says, sure, like you can sit back and wait for someone else, right, to come in and swoop in and do these things, right? You get the pro of not doing anything about it. But don't bitch when it comes to time of living the life of a follower, right? And it really breaks it down for you. And I think that's what we, as we're all, have smiles and we're saying like, I love doing the work. We love doing the work because we know that also we feel better, and it allows us to live that life and relationship that comes with being the leader, right? And it's just, it comes so enjoyable and easy to maintain and want to dive in. And with that said, I'll kick it back to you, James, but just want to add that.
No, exactly, right. And it's being able to be that leader and kind of create those sort of relationships and moments that I want to talk about next. David, when we were talking beforehand, you kind of mentioned that you had this trip with Vivian in the summer of 23 that was sort of a turning point where you finally could showcase all the changes that you were working towards in the program. What was that moment like? And like, what did you realize about your relationship then?
Well, so that summer, that trip, it was like I said, the first opportunity really, because prior to that, like my wife didn't really want to talk to me, be involved with me with anything really. But I've been working on the program for maybe I would say like 8 or 9 months by then, and so I was well into the reinterpretations. I think I started doing the auto suggestions around that time also. But reinterpretations is when I started making my shifts already. And so going into this trip, I thought not just that this is a good time for me to showcase my changes, but like even for some other principles in the program, like EBO, like it's gotta be fun. And so I went on the trip. I was happy to be there, like to interact with my wife's friends, take care of a kid, and like she wanted. It was a trip to a arts festival, and so she was there to watch some shows with her friends. But I guess she wanted to bring the kid along, right? But she needs someone to take care of him, and that's fine. Like, so me and the kid, we had our fun, and I guess in front of all her friends to see like, hey, I think David's different. He seems different. Like, and so, I mean, it's not like at that time. Then she was like, oh, okay, I love you again. Like that's not the case, but like, it was a first, I think, turning point. I guess it was an eye-opening thing for me.
Planting seeds.
Yeah. And I think I love that for a couple of reasons, right? Like the first is, right, when we're working through the program, right, there is going to be those spells for clients where your partner just doesn't want to hear your shit, right? They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to get engaged with you. They don't want to be a part of the conversation, right? They don't want to listen to you. And a lot of people are like, well, how do I get my partner back if she's not willing to talk? Well, it's by showing up consistently and making those changes and not missing the opportunities around you. So if you had still been falling for victim mindsets and you had still fallen for mind viruses, when your partner had asked you, hey, I want to go on this trip and I want to bring our kid, can you come with to watch him? You might have said no. And instead of post-traumatically growing and taking that opportunity to shine and have that big, massive event where you kind of make this change and her friends notice, and now she starts to take notice, you could have post-traumatically fallen into stress and made the situation worse, right? And I think that being able to recognize those opportunities and capitalize on them when they come around is absolutely key. And then I imagine, Geoffrey, if you could add on to that a little bit, because I know that this is an area that you've been, well, as you've been working on your book, you've been incredibly diving deep in. So
yeah, the book is all about post-traumatic growth in a relationship setting, in a personal setting too. But it's, I think I want to speak to also that thing that you said, James, about people coming in and they always want to hear, like, what do I do? What do I say? Right? People need to realize this. The reason why shit hit the fan in the first place is because you were doing and saying things without backing it up with internal shifts. As a result, whatever you say and do doesn't become genuine. And the most important thing is that whatever you say and do, you cannot follow through on consistently. And you don't even know sometimes how you don't follow through, right? And that's a danger, really, with prioritizing what to do and say. And so your partner often does not care about what you do and say in the beginning. Because let's say you join the program today and we teach you what to do and say in week 2. Do you think your partner will go look at that and go, David here has been struggling with this for the last 20 years of his life, but 2 weeks, suddenly everything changes? Of course not, right? So let's curb people's expectations here, that this is not about finding the right tactics and finding the right things to say that will pull your partner back in, that will manipulate her into coming in. The way you win this game is by making the changes deep within, so that you can actually post-traumatically grow from these opportunities, so that your partner will actually want to be attracted back. Okay? And on this notion of post-traumatic growth, I think, David, for your case, the opportunity in the beginning was pretty obvious, right? Meaning you had a moment when you were going to like a trip together, and the moment, the connection, the mental connection of like, okay, that is my opportunity to show who I am, pretty fucking obvious, right? But I think for a lot of our clients, the opportunities are never that obvious. So there was this comment that was made on the YouTube channel, and the guy was saying basically, how are you supposed to show your changes if your partner doesn't even want to have a conversation? How do you show your changes if your partner says, I don't want to talk to you? And then my response was, that was the opportunity. Your partner telling you, I don't want to talk to you. Your partner telling you, I don't believe your changes. Your partner telling you, or not even speaking to you. And how you respond to that is the opportunity in itself. And we gave the story of the fish, right? The fish goes around the ocean asking like, hey guys, I'm looking for this place called the ocean. And the other fish goes, bro, you're in the ocean. And the other fish goes, no, this is not the ocean. This is water. So often people are looking at like, where's my opportunity? Where's my opportunity? And they go like, that was it, man. You missed it. You were in the ocean this whole time. And so I gave an example to the guy about like, because the guy asked again, I still don't see it. Okay, so your partner tells you, right? I don't believe your changes and I don't want to speak with you anymore. Imagine if you had the internal shift to actually interpret that as a positive thing. And you TTH in this way. Hey, partner, right? Totally understand why you would say that. I've been doing a lot of self-reflection and I understand why you don't even want to talk to me. If I look back, I don't even want to talk to myself. Right? Because, and I'm not saying this because like to trick you into believing that I've changed whatever it is, but I've really been doing a lot of self-reflection. I've realized I've done X, Y, Z, and it made you feel A, B, C, right? And so you don't have to, like, I don't want to be some guy to pressure you to talk to me just because we want to have this label of reconciliation, whatever it is. Like, I want to become the guy who you actually want to talk to voluntarily, right? So take whatever time you need. If you need 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, in the meantime, I'm going to work on myself. Imagine if you said something like that, where you took your partner saying, I don't want to talk to you, into a massive seed planting opportunity of your changes, versus you going like, okay, my partner tells me I don't want to talk to you anymore. Let me try to find some manipulative ways to get her to talk to me, which shows again that you haven't changed, right? And I told the guy too, the fact that you didn't recognize this as an opportunity means that your paradigms and how you look at stuff is still very fucked up. So until you fix that, there is no tactic, there is no script that can teach you. You need to spot these opportunities yourself, right? And that's where PTSD comes in. It's like the bigger the trauma comes, the bigger your opportunity, right? That's why we say too, no case is unique, because when you can take those cases where your partner tells you the tough truth that would make most people crumble and go to PTSD, in our program, we take that and we use it as like a slingshot, right? Oh, partner, you want to like go even down? Poof, that just means I'm about to go further up here, right?
Yeah, I want to add on to that. Like, it's like you can't expect to join the program and get your results in 2 weeks. And even like you were saying, maybe your partner's not talking to you, but you know, they're always watching. Maybe you don't notice it, but they're actually watching. So like the whole 9 months, you know, I'm working on the program, doing my internal shifts, and maybe I guess she sees, you know, my small changes here and there. Like, oh, he's changing. So without these changes, there wouldn't have been the opportunity for her to, like, you know, to want to invite me to this trip, because she tried saying like, oh, like he's different now. Let's test it out. You know? And so that then became the opportunity where she was like, oh, do you want to come with us on this trip? But that was like, you know, 9 months in. So it's not like, you know, 2 weeks up there it is, my results. It takes time, but your partner is watching.
And it's something you said that was very interesting, right? Like, and you said on this 9 month, like this trip that was planned 9 months in, you said this will be fun, right? This will be good. And notice how your mindset is like, wow, this is an opportunity to change your mind, right? This is an opportunity to say the right magic words. You're like, at that stage of working through the internal shifts of untethering, learning the falling outcomes, all these different mindset shifts that come in, you're saying, wow, I can just go enjoy it, be present, and just be myself, right? And it shows the fact that the mindset that we teach is like do to become, right? Do to become this person, don't do to have. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make early on. And like you said, even when we joined the program in the beginning, like we're still in this mindset of doing to have. And we're almost just like pulling in and like trying to fill our cup on this element. But you're like, hey, I'm just going to show up for this event. I don't need anything. I don't need anything. I'm just going to let my cup run over in this and just enjoy the moment. And there was a transitioning point where that directly happened, you know, in my relationship, where my wife just realizes, she's like, you'll be happy with or without me, right? So that's the turning point where no longer am I saying I'll be fine, I'm going to work on myself, I'm going to do it. She's actually feeling that difference, like this, maybe she could feel no longer the pressure of like me trying to reconcile and me trying to do these things. It's like, it's a wonderful feeling that we have. And it's so important to have when we're children. We're just in the moment. We're authentic and we're genuine, and it's just a way of living. And I think it radiates from ourselves, and our partner is able to we plant those little seeds, and we're not saying anything. They're just observing our nature and how we handle everything. And I think that's the magic of what we teach, right?
Right.
Not
It's like the way I picture this is almost like this, right? Imagine you have a third-person camera watching you all the time, right? And your partner has access to the server here. And let's say you go to this party where your partner is at. And in that party, you are this amazing, charming, changed person. You're amazing, right? Do you think your partner would look at that tape of you in that party and say, that's evidence that David has changed? No. You know what she will do? She'll go, okay, so David is in the party, good, okay. Let's see what happens when he walks out. And he's by himself. He thinks no one's watching. He thinks he's by himself right now. I want to see that, right? So of all the moments that they're going to see, they're always watching, but of all the moments they're going to see that really matters to them, it's not the big audacious moments that you can plan. It's the moments when you have your guard down, you think that it's over, you think there's no hope, you think there's no one watching, she's not watching anymore. What you do then is the opportunity, is the telltale, right? But unfortunately, because people go into this reconciliation space and reconciliation game trying to get their partners back, right? And once their partner says, I don't want to come back. We got this email yesterday, right? Some guy applied to the program and he said, well, I think my partner's dead set on divorce, so I don't want to do the program anymore. If that's what you do, then yes, your partner will never believe your changes. And yes, divorce will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not because it was impossible. You made it impossible. Because as soon as you walk out of that party and you realize that your partner's not chasing after you, you start to kick the can and like cuss at people and like, go back to your old self. Your partner's looking at that camera footage and going like, I knew it. Fuck that. I knew it. I knew it wasn't real. I knew this wasn't genuine. Right? And so that's why, again, we say you have to make it a becoming thing. Because, and unfortunately right now, a lot of programs, they teach you what to say and do at the party. They don't know how to teach you how to be outside the party. But it's who you are outside the party that really counts when you think no one's watching, which is the biggest shame. And a lot of people don't get that, I think.
Yeah,
Max, James, Jason, yeah.
I was just gonna say 100% on this, right? And like Geoffrey, you and I, we feel the emails and we read every application. In some parts, I'm just like, if you sent this to your partner, what would she think, right? So it's almost like a lens into our brain of how we're functioning, how we're thinking, how we're doing these things. And it's almost like we want to, play these gimmicks or tactics to put on a mask of how we're thinking. And I hear from a lot of people, they'll say like, what do I do to not appear this way? And I think that's a big shift between our program and most others is we're not teaching you how to like appear not needy. We're not teaching you how to appear non-judgmental. We want to change stop being needy, right? Have your mindset when no one's looking, because those are the critical moments, right? That actually set the stage for reconciliation. It's again, not what you do when people are watching, but it's what you're doing when people are not watching is the key moments.
I think I'll be interested to hear from David and James and Bax too on this one where, people sometimes actually join our program to get that appearance, right? People sometimes, I think, join our program just to say, I joined this program. Here's the bill of receipts, right? Here's my proof of like me going through the modules. But we both know that they didn't absorb anything. They didn't actually make anything their lifestyle. But they just want to say like, see, partner, I did it. I tried. Whether that's going to be used in a court of law later when they're divorcing and they're doing custody battle, whatever it is, or they're just doing to just say like, I did it. I tried. But they didn't really try. James, you see that a lot. Bax, you see that a lot in the coaching space. David, what do you think was was a differentiating factor of your journey where you didn't fall into that trap?
Well, early on, I did actually tell my wife, hey, I'm in this program. I was thinking like, it'll make her happy, you don't need to do anything. I'll work on myself, But of course, she just, it doesn't matter to her. She's like, okay, whatever. But no, I don't think I fell into this trap because, I guess also because of the, like I said earlier, the reinterpretations. Because I was able to see that the flaws, not all the flaws in the relationship, but like I contributed to the problems, in the relationship. And so I saw that and I was able to, so I was figured out, fix it myself, fix whatever I can fix. And so it wasn't just me trying to show off. I think just because I saw the changes I could make. And when I did make it, like I said earlier, like it made me feel good. Like I feel happy doing these processes. And so it just became like a constant thing.
Yeah. I think here, the thing is like your partner is smart enough to understand that your degree means nothing, right? It's almost like the career world, right? I don't care if you go to Harvard. If this guy went from community college, is giving me more value, making me as a owner of the company happy and creating more value, I don't care if the guy is from local community college and you are from Harvard, right? I think your partner's smart enough to understand that, to understand what's real, what's not, what's genuine, what's not, etc.
Well, we have
that's what you're saying.
And we have a hilarious. Oh, sorry, Jason, because I got to say this one. We have a fantastic example of this. There was a member who joined the program, I believe very much the same as you, David, and same as me, right? Went and told their wives, oh, I joined this program. I'm doing this work. I'm doing all this great stuff. I guess what he didn't understand is that his partner would then get interested in the program herself. So she started watching Geoffrey's YouTube content and paying attention to Geoffrey's YouTube videos and following along with it. And then around like 3 or 4 months down the line, she actually emailed Geoffrey and was like, hey, I just noticed like my husband isn't doing any of the things that you're talking about in the program. Like, is he actually doing it? Right.
And
she started
doing it, right? And
right.
she's doing it. He's not doing it. And it's like...
So it was just one of those, it was a very funny situation where it's like, you got kind of busted with that one there, buddy. So like, again, like a lot of people, and I think it doesn't happen often. Because again, Jason, we have a very strict kind of screening process as to who joins the program, because our community is the most important thing to us, and protecting the people inside of that community and making sure that it's a healthy space where you can grow together is, I think, very important to us. So we kind of weed those people out. But there have been times when we've had people come in and we'll see, hey, Joe Schmo has joined the community, and we never see them make a post. They never actually talk to anybody. They never engage with the coaches. I might even go and look at their progress, and they might open the first module and don't do anything beyond that. So I don't understand what they got out of that, other than maybe, like you said, ticking the box to say, hey, I joined, I did something, I'm working on myself. But they're actively not doing it if that's the case.
I think it's a very important transition, because we were talking about, like the coaches on this side, we were talking about some common mindsets and traps that people fall into. And I forget who it was, but kick it back to David. And David's like, yeah, I kind of did that, but not really. And he says, by that time, I'm like in the interpretations. And I think that's the exact thing that we offer, right? It's like, we're giving you like this roadmap. Right. And what I tell with clients is like, when they enroll, I'm just imagine like we're telling you 6 miles up the road, there's a speed trap. Like slow the hell down. Right. If you don't do it this way, you're going to run into that area. And I think that's kind of what you're realizing too, David, is like, yeah, because you kind of followed those processes, because you kind of followed these warning signs, you didn't fall into as many traps as you could have, or as you've seen some of your fellow students and we see. And that's kind of what we're doing, is we're thinking as a coaching team, we're thinking 10, 20 moves ahead. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at it, it's like, this doesn't make sense. Like this whole reinterpretation, why is this so important? It's not going to fix anything. But when you lean into it and you do it, you realize later that you avoided so many pitfalls, so many traps along that process. And that's kind of what James is also talking about, the people that will invest and they don't tune in. Like that's the whole point, is pay attention to the warnings. And Bax, I'll kick it back to you. Your head's nodding over there, but how many people that we're trying to, avoid of these cautious warnings that they, mistakes that they can actually learn from, instead of, learn the hard way, they can learn the easy way.
You're muted, Bax.
Sorry. It's kind of, thanks for letting me know, guys. That was all in unison as well when you all said it. It's nuts to me, both from having been a client, right, a student, as well as a coach, because not to compare our community to prison, right, but like I just, like, when I came in, I was just like, it's kind of like, all right, if you get put in prison, right, you know why you're there, right? It's like, stop fucking about now. Like, you're in prison. Like, this is kind of the end of the line. But you still have these people, right, in the jail cell that will just still keep being just like, you know, crazy and just doing all the wrong things or whatever, right? And so when I've seen people as a client and as a coach come in and do those things, it just seems kind of ludicrous to me. But like, it's like what we said earlier, like some people, you'd think this would be the last slap, right? But some people, they need a few more slaps in the prison, figurative prison, right? But you know, like I never really received a slap. Thankfully, I was a good boy. Geoffrey, can you attest to that? I was pretty well behaved in the prison. So.
I don't remember. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I gave you any tough love call or anything like that.
No,
I think
but
you got one on the application process.
I know Jason did. I know Jason.
I got it.
did
Exactly. I got it at the front gate. I got it at the gate of the jail cell, and I was like, okay, that all right. Like, you made me sit there. Yeah, so it's kind of nuts, but like, you know, because even watching other people make the mistakes, right? It's like there's so much value of seeing people make mistakes, people like sharing their stories, things that they did, you know, people who like got so close to what they wanted and then set themselves back. And it's just like, you just can't get this sort of value anywhere else. You know, I spent like a year stalking the internet, Reddit forums, and anywhere I could look, trying to find someone with some positive sort of notion about like, you know, saving a relationship and becoming a better person. And everywhere you go, it's just bitter, miserable people who are just like so bitter about relationships, right? And it's like, it's risky, you know? And so for like anybody that's watching that, it's like, you need to get away from that sort of environment and those sorts of places quick, because they poison the soil of your mind, right? It's a weird analogy, but they poison your mind, right? And it's very subtle, you know, and that's how you start leaning towards things like red pill or manosphere, or, you know, it's not always the man's fault, or all these things that we call TBU that are not going to help your situation. They're not going to change things. I think Geoffrey put it beautifully earlier, where it's like you just want to sit there and say, I have no control. Why would you want that? Right? Oh, why do I have to change? Change is good. Change is a great thing. Like, why would you not want to change? You say, I don't want to get better. Like, it's a sad life to live, honestly. But
yeah,
and I think, and I
ahead,
appreciate you hanging in with us a little bit later than we had initially planned, David. So I don't want to keep you
no
a ton
worries.
longer. But one thing I wanted to bring up is like, so you did the work, you hung in, you made those kind of changes, you made the internal shifts. I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about where your relationship's at now. Like, how are things going with you and Vivian? How are things in your life currently?
Okay. Well, I mean, I've been in the program for a while now. Doing program work, it's become like a daily routine for me. And so I'm constantly improving my changes, I'm leveling up, I guess you could say, right? And so the relationship actually is also on the upward trajectory too. Yeah, so after that trip, right? I mean, like we've been going on many vacations, many trips to various places like Thailand, Singapore, places in China, all around, right? She also gets me gifts for like Valentine's Day, Christmas, birthday, all that stuff. So it's good.
Here's the beef, right? With the community we've created, for my opinion. So we had this guy who reconciled with his wife, and he didn't even share it with the group until like 2 months later or whatever it is. But I think it's a good thing for me because, if you go to a lot of other coaches, we know of one coach, for example, who the client will join after a month, and then the wife will have a little bit of an inkling of coming back. And instantly that coach will grab that client and say, let's do an interview together. And that client would then relapse on the reconciliation or like break up again. And the client would sometimes even ask the coach, can you take that down? And the coach would say, no, we're not taking it down. Right? So most coaches operate like that, where they're just like holding on to every reconciliation story they can, real or not. I don't really care. But I think we have we have an interesting problem here of like, even for David, for example, right? By all definition of the word, you are reconciled. But we never want to say we're reconciled because we are doing from an untethered space where there's no
Yes.
finish line. We are in what we call, like in the program now, perpetual beta. Like the video game is in perpetually beta mode, never launch, never alpha mode, never final mode, right? So even when we're talking about reconciliation, we never say like we're there. We're always on a trajectory. And for the outside world, it can seem like, maybe the results here are not as good as I think it is. No, it's just a different mindset here. We're here, like, we're not holding on to the tiny wins. We don't feel like we need to hold on to tiny wins because we know we're living for the biggest, even bigger wins, right? So for people who are like misunderstanding this to be like, is this really a reconciliation then? He's not saying the word reconciliation. That word doesn't exist in our space. But because that word doesn't exist in our space, more members in our program are getting reconciliation as people define it, but we never say it. Right.
And I think that people don't understand that we're always pushing towards that higher level as well, right? Like we have so many stories in the program of relationships going to levels that honestly I didn't even think were possible in relationships. Like I always thought Hallmark movies were entirely bullshit, right? But like we have people who jokingly, like, and David laughs because he knows we have people who live like those Hallmark story type lives where it's like, how are you possibly doing that, right? Like, and it's very much, like the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift type romance and relationship where things just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And I think people we set a higher standard in that our standard isn't something that you can obtain, right? We constantly want to push to, once you get to that next level, you keep growing because the adverse of that is you fall into entropy and the relationship dies off. And I mean, I think all of us, Jason, other than Geoffrey, of course, but Jason, you've been in the program the longest, right? I think you can probably speak to like the growth that a relationship can take over time the most.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I remember Jason, for you, right? There was a guy on Reddit, I think.
Still there.
Still there on Reddit who says like, look at that Jason fool, right? His relationship is in the rocks. And then we're reading there going like,
okay.
Jason's wife moved to Houston to be near RMHQ. They have a daughter. They're living together. They're living amazing lives. Like,
Right.
That's crazy.
And I think with both James and you, Geoffrey, is alluding to, it's a change of perspective, right? It's no longer are we labeling things or no longer are we viewing things from what the world views, right? Of the labels of, as many people look at, my wife and I are legally divorced, right? But yet that hasn't stopped our relationship from progressing and us living that life where year 4 is better than year 3 and year 3 is better than year 2 and year 2 is better than year 1. It's like we all have been there where our relationship is like here and it just goes a little bit year after year after year after year. And this is what we see as clients is we don't see like this step up is the end, right? This is not it, right? Like we're continuing this trajectory in what we find with our clients is like, it's a change in perspective, right? No longer are we playing to like, what do other people think, right? Or what does the state of Texas say about my wife and I's marriage? Well, it's not up to them. It's up to the woman that's in the other room, and it's up to me, right?
Yeah.
It's our decision, right? And when we get these haters on the outside, it's like water off a duck's back. It's like it's just funny. It's comical to us, right? And a lot of the negative comments I've gotten on some of my, through Reddit or YouTube interview, it's like these comments just haven't really aged well, right? Where it's like
they're always proven more and more wrong over time, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Like even for me and my wife, I never actually proposed to her, right? And we're married, obviously, but I never actually proposed to her because, and some people, who just get to know us, they think, oh, you never proposed. They must not be living a romantic life, whatever it is. Or, oh, you guys didn't do anything for Valentine's Day? Well, that kind of sucks, But then me and my wife were like, no, we don't do anything for Valentine's Day because every fucking day is Valentine's Day. So we don't celebrate Valentine's Day because things are going too good, right? We don't propose because we're like every day is a proposal. Every day feels like a proposal. So it's not, we're not proposing not because we're unhappy. We're not proposing because we're too happy. So it's like, but then just because we're not like shouting up from the rooftops doesn't mean it's not real. But I think that's where the real results come in, right? People who actually are rich, for example, people who are actually wealthy, they don't go around going, I'm rich, right? They're the ones driving the Civics or the basic cars, wearing basic clothes, right? It's the people who are not really that rich, but they want to look it, that they go, I'm rich, they wear all the logos and everywhere, right? That's where people care. And the same thing with relationships, right? If you're truly happy, you don't feel the need to like, let me tell you how amazing things are, how much reconciled, right? The fact that people are quiet in this can be the best sign that this is good,
Right.
But I mean,
and James, before you go into this other part, and I want to say, David, I know we're keeping you late here, coming from.
No, I guess
But there is a section I want to get to. Since we've been doing these round robins and I've been part of it, there's something that I realized in my interview after it, and something I brought to Geoffrey's attention is like sometimes these interviews can be like, it's like just building you up, talking about you. And I noticed in my story, right, where it's like I thought I was up here, and then everything down here, and I kind of picked myself up and became this leader where. It almost seems like an afterthought about my wife and the journey that she's been on and the effort she's put in. When I look about her inching closer back into my life, like month after month, every year, it's almost like in my mind she's stepping out on this ice, right? And having this trust in me, but also in the fact of, when I interview someone to enroll in this program, I do make an assumption. I make an assumption that they're here for a reason. That their wife is, not perfect in a way, but has a lot of redeeming qualities and a lot of good attributes that we as husbands or wives want to fight for this relationship. And, I think if we thought our wife was like batshit crazy or our husband was batshit crazy, we like wipe our brow and like slap hands with bros and like we dodged a bullet. But that wasn't the case when you enrolled, Dave. That wasn't the case at all from what I recall of that. Can you talk a little bit about, right, what made this worth, talk a little bit about Vivian and what made this something worth going through all that?
Well, I mean, like, my love for her never disappeared or anything like that. I think it's just a different like paradigms of what a marriage or a relationship, would have been, I guess. Like back then, I thought, she's there to support me, right? But no, my love for her never diminished or anything like that. If anything, it's like now that I'm not so blind, now that I've had like this weight lifted off me, I'm feel happier and everything. I almost feel like I love her even more.
Yes. Yeah. And I think what you're describing is something I went through. It's almost an increase in attraction, right?
Yeah.
The more we start to unpack like the broken layers and the mindsets that we had, we start to realize, wow, this woman is like, what a trooper, right? Like if I were her, I would have been like gone. And the fact that she kind of did these, and we start to think, because we paint the story in the beginning where we feel like she's not doing anything and we don't have anything to work on, but we start to realize all these little subtle cues where she has been trying. It's just I've been taking them the wrong way, and we start to say, holy shit, like look at this opportunity I could be squandering here, right? And it builds this attraction, this love for this woman, and I think that's the tipping point when you realize, like, you say you love your wife, you say these things, but you're only seeing it here, right? But because all these judgments and these blames that we have, right, we're not able to see our partner for who she really is up there, right? So
well, yeah. I think sometimes we have this mindset of when we're trying to change other people, our wives, for example, we kind of just tell them you need to change and expect them to like want to change. But that's not respecting the idea that this is a falling outcome. So for you, right, David, for you, for example, I think what's interesting is the reason why I say, for example, I love my wife more now is because I stopped putting that pressure on her to change. And I just create the environment where she will want to blossom herself. She actually now probably does more nice things for you that you wanted all along without you even asking. Right? So all the things that you were asking before, like, for example, sex is a good one, right? At one point of our relationship, because her safety was so destroyed, we weren't having sex too. For a couple of years, we were only having sex maybe like you can count on one hand here how many times we had sex in a couple of years, kind of thing, right? And we're just new in the relationship, And the more I wanted sex to happen, the more I made sex like a chore for her. The more I turned her off from it, the more she feels like it's a chore, the less we had it. The more I asked for something, the less I had it. The moment I just let's just create the culture here where she can feel safe. She can feel like she can blossom in her feminine again. She can blossom in her sexuality again and let that happen. She's now initiating sex without even me asking for it. The other day, or like the other week, she was like, I'm a nymphomaniac, Jeff, right? It's like, because I never even need to ask for that. She's giving it to me already. And I think that's the power of the falling approach here, where if you want your partner to create the life with your partner, you have to ask yourself, am I creating the culture? Am I creating the environment that allows her to blossom? Right? That's really the simple question.
Now, like, I just feel more loved. I feel more appreciated, and also I appreciate her more for these things. It's just so much more like maybe in the past, it'd be more like something I forced out of her, so it's not really genuine. But now it's like she's doing these things because she wants to. It's not because I'm telling her to, or because I'm telling her, oh, I want you to do this. It's something that she wants to do herself. So I mean, this goes back to the positive feedback loops. How you create the good environment, nice environment for her, then you know what? She'll be able to blossom, like Geoffrey was talking about.
How is the dynamic between you guys? Like, can you talk about like the kind of conversations that you're having, and like the connection, the bond, the sorts of things that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, so in the past, she'd be very, I guess, reserved or shielded in what she could really talk to me about. She'd be afraid maybe how I might respond, or if I'm going to judge her for it or something. But now it's like she can talk about whatever, any problems she has with her friends, her best friends, detailing to her, or anything really. It's all open. She feels safe to talk about, I guess, anything with me. And I'm happy to receive that and to actually learn more about her and about these problems. I'm genuinely interested in those things. I feel like before the program, I'm kind of being like, oh, I don't have time for this. Like,
Even the way you see those tough truths, the way you see those tough emotions, the way you see trauma is different, right? Like back then, when you saw your partner's kind of expressions and her telling you about her bad day as like an inconvenience, and you couldn't help but react like, oh, again, even though you're like on the outside, you're like, tell me more. Your mind is going, elsewhere, right? But now you're like, I see it differently now. It's like almost like, changing the color of your lens almost. I used to see everything is red, not because everything was red, but because my lens was red, right? But now I change your lens to be like clear and then go, oh, wow, I see now not everything is red. You can see things accurately from what they are, and you can appreciate the same things in a different way. It's kind of an interesting thing about how people, even backs, right? You underestimated the value of paradigm shifts at first. Mm-hmm. But until you realize that everything you do is bred from your paradigms. Your paradigms have a big impact on how you see the world, how you act, how you respond, how you react, how you act, right? So if you don't feel the importance or you don't see the value of paradigms and shifting paradigms, and all you care about is like, just tell me what to do and say, but you don't appreciate the value of like, you got to reprogram this shit, right? You will always be missing opportunities. You'll always be making Freudian slips. And you are going to push your partner further away and you don't even know it.
So true.
Absolutely. And, you know, I just want to say, I think from all of us, right, David, thank you so much for sharing your kind of incredible journey with us. I think what strikes me the most about everything is how far you've come, going from like that place of indifference where she didn't really care and wanting a separation and all of the struggles that entails, to a marriage now that's, you know, not just surviving, but you're actually thriving in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, being able to make those internal shifts and use the processes of the program shows that no matter how dark things get or how big of a surprise there is, as long as you follow the process and you have a solid process to follow, there's a path forward. So I just, again, thank you for going through your journey with us, and I'm really glad to have the conversation with you today.
Oh yeah, actually, thank you guys for the program, letting me in. It's really good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, I think people outside the program, like, you don't really know like what you get once you're in the program, but it's so much more than you could imagine.
It's hard to articulate, right?
It's hard.
It's really hard to articulate. Like, I was giving this example to the coaching group the other day. Okay. So, David, you know that feeling you get when like you reach into your bag of chips and you realize that you're out of chips, right? You're watching TV and you're like eating potato chips and you're like, that chip I ate was the last one, right? That is such a complex concoction of feelings, right? It's a bit of disappointment. Maybe it's a little bit of regret because like, shit, how can I even finish this whole fucking bag? There's a bit of relief. Now I don't have to eat the whole fucking bag. I don't have to get fatter anymore, right? There's all this mix of emotions with that sensation. There's not a word in the English language for that, right? Now, I want you to imagine, okay, that feeling. I think one of our members called it like chip-faced, right? Let's call it chip-faced. The combination of like disappointment, regret, guilt, relief. Now, imagine trying to describe that feeling to someone who's never seen a bag of chips before. Some tribal guy who's never seen a bag of chips before. Try to describe that feeling to him. It's fucking hard. You can try, but it's really hard to get it exactly right. And I think that's what you were kind of expressing here with this program, is that it's really hard to put into words what this program is, what this program feels like, what a relationship can feel like. It's almost like trying to describe how beautiful the world is to a blind person. You just can't. How do you describe a tree to a blind person who'd never seen before? Hey, it's this green thing, you know, but it's beautiful, man. It's so beautiful, man. Like, you know, it has this trunk. He goes, what is a trunk? Oh, it's this stick that, how do you even describe a tree? I don't even know. So at some point you run out of words. You're like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe this to you. You just have to see it to believe it, experience it to believe it. And until you experience it, you will never believe it, kind of thing. And I think that's where often when we have clients, they have a loss of words because they're like, I have the same thing. I don't know how to describe this to you, man. I don't know. You know, is that kind of how you feel? Right now?
Yeah, and that's not just for like the program content, but also for like where you can take your relationship. It's like beyond what you can imagine. But once you join the program, you start doing the work, you get there eventually. But it's like you want to tell someone who's not in the program where they can get with their relationship. It's really hard to describe.
Yeah. I have the same problem, and I don't think that's a problem we'll ever fix. Unless it's like Elon Musk invents like this device where I can implant a helmet to you. I go like, okay, do you see what I see here?
Thank you so much, brother. It was a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully enjoy the rest of your day. It's funny, the hotspot worked better. Your internet was perfect when you switched to the hotspot. Geoffrey was doubtful, but the hotspot turned it around. Hotspot
Yeah.
MVP.
Hotspot.
Yeah, forget Starlink then. Just hotspot everywhere.